Hey biscuits, welcome back to the wholesome feed. So I'm talking about digital nomading again because it is something that has really been on my mind. And I know based on DMs and emails from you biscuits that it's also on a lot of your minds of, maybe you have a family, young family like I do, and maybe you have a work from home or a digital nomad job, content creation, where you really have a lot of options for where you can work from. But, in my case, I felt very in the mindset of being tied down to one place for a long time. And I don't know where that came from because, I've been doing content creation for a couple of years now. And really, I think not until the pandemic made me not be able to go anywhere did I really start thinking about, well, why am I in the spot I am? And, I live in Washington State because it's near family. And, I can visit my nephews, I can see my brothers and sisters and my in-laws. Well, my sibling in-laws. Those aren't really your in-laws. I just think of them as my siblings. But, I can see the whole extended families. But increasingly, it's really made me want to look and figure out, what are the pros and cons of living in Washington State as a digital nomad. So my kind of digital nomad is I'm self-employed. So I run my own business. I am a romance author, romance books. We're turning that into a streaming series, the romance erotica books. I also run a Patreon page and I run 2 YouTube channels and my Instagram. So I have this whole content creation media business. And so for me, I'm self-employed. So in Washington State, when you're self-employed, you also pay self-employed taxes. You pay a state income tax on your business income. So depending on how you set up your business, but if you're just a self-employed digital nomad, you pay tax on that. So Washington State does have more taxes for if you're self-employed, you own your own little business, than if you're working for somebody else from home, and so you can travel as well. So that's something to take into consideration. I feel like taxes are always something people ask about. Property taxes are super high up here, and COL, the cost of living, is super high in Washington State. So I know some digital nomads, their goal is to live as cheaply as possible, so they can either work as few hours for the digital nomading as possible, or so they can save really fast. I don't think Washington State is a good place if you are an average earner digital nomad to be trying to save money or be living on the cheap, because it's really hard to do that. So I think if you're looking like a savings model, Washington State is not a good spot for digital nomads. If you're looking at a creative community, that's a hard one for me to gauge. So if you live in like Seattle City proper, I think there's a lot of things and meetups that you can do with digital nomad societies and groups and all that. I think if you live anywhere else, Western Washington just has kind of a cold shoulder attitude and doesn't have a super collaborative attitude towards a lot of people. Take that as you will. Translate that however you want, but so it's not a super collaborative community. I know I've lived elsewhere when I was in Arizona and I was running my own little tiny business, and I had much more of a collaborative sense of community in Arizona than anything I've been able to find here in this state. In fact, now that I think about it, I think I've lived an equal amount of time in Arizona as Washington now. I've lived in Washington a little bit longer. I might have lived in Washington a little bit longer. So think about that, when you're gauging Washington as a state, is it has pockets of collaborative communities for digital nomad, creative types, and you might be a digital nomad who's, in more of a technical field. And so you might not be as interested in collaborating. But definitely, I would say Washington State doesn't have a great collaborative scene. I'm kind of an introverted little person that likes to do my own stuff, but definitely when I try to collaborate, it's harder here than I've had it in other places that I have worked in my artistic-y random fields. Now, the good part is you have beautiful scenery. So if you are in the visual arts, there's so much gorgeous stuff around here. I was filming reels out in national forest areas, and it's just beautiful. Summertime can't be beat for the Pacific Northwest for gorgeous scenery and just beautiful things to inspire you to create. So I think that's a really nice thing about the Pacific Northwest. Washington State is great for getting your creative juices flowing because of beautiful scenery, being out in nature. A lot of digital nomads that I have met are introverts like I am, and especially content creators. A lot of us are introverts. And so it can be really nice to have natural places to go take it easy, to forest bathe, to just recharge your creative batteries. And that can be really wonderful for digital nomads. So definitely think about that, where you're going. If you're looking at Washington State, you know, the whole state, where is somewhere that is going to recharge your creative batteries? Where is somewhere that is going to let you focus the business side of your digital nomading? You know, what's somewhere that's really good for that? If you're a digital nomad like I am with kids and a family, then Washington State is a lovely place for a family. You know, kids can dig in the dirt, play in puddles, go to rivers, go to the ocean, go to lakes, you know, play on big rocks. It's a really fun place. You can go clamming, you can go fishing, you can do all sorts of fun stuff. So this is a good spot for a digital nomad that loves nature and whose kids love nature. So that's part of what keeps me here, is we are a very outdoorsy family, not in like the necessarily rough and tumble. We're more like let's take a cute little picnic and go over here, but it's great for that. So it's a wonderful state for nature lovers who maybe your digital nomad job involves that, or you get recharged creatively with that. I think it's super helpful. And that's something that I don't hear a lot of digital nomads talk about. I hear a lot of the digital nomad podcasts and videos I see, you know, a lot of it's about cost of living, it's about taxes, it's about networking, and I don't hear a lot about what is the quality of life for the lifestyle you want as a digital nomad with a family. You know, what is the environmental impact of that? And so you have the option of being in cities. I don't think Washington has any really great cities to live in culturally. So if you're looking for like an urban city experience for you and your family for being a digital nomad, I think Washington State is totally off your list, 100%. It's just not one of the top, it doesn't have any of the top good, culturally interesting cities that I would bother to be a digital nomad in. But if you're looking for great suburbs, great natural locations, I think this is, you know, one of the best states for that. It's really beautiful for it. If you are doing van life, this can be a really fun state for that. Something else we were talking about when I was mentioning with some of you was internet access. I think overall we have pretty good internet in the state. There are areas where there's really a monopoly, where only one server of internet gets to you, and so internet can be very expensive out here. And I would say it's medium speed. Like even if I pay for extra fast internet, and it's still not all that fast, but it's enough to get the job done. And I do really heavy internet load, content creation, uploading, downloading, cloud stuff. So if your job maybe doesn't take quite that much, that can be fine, I think. So I think the internet is like, it's a non-issue. You have internet connectivity. You have pretty good cell service most places. You know, if you are doing like a road trip and van life kind of digital nomad style, you can generally find internet cell service somewhere nearby. If you're really in the national forest, you're gonna have to drive out somewhere in different parts of Washington State that won't have cell, but generally you're gonna be fine. So you're gonna be able to do your work, which is definitely something I look at. So if you are a digital nomad with kids, something I do when I'm traveling as a digital nomad is, you know, sometimes I need to hire a babysitter so that I can get my content creation done. And, you know, if you are digital nomading, if you are traveling and going around the state, this is a state that has a real childcare desert. So don't expect to find a lot of kids activities or childcare flexibility for your digital nomading. I will let you know when I find a state in the US that's better for that. I'm just now dipping my toes into kind of figuring out where for a digital nomad it's good to go with kids when you really need all these support services of options, right? Which is very different than if you're just a single digital nomad. Like that's a totally different lifestyle. But I'm sure there's a lot of us parents that are interested in this and going around and being a little bit less location dependent, but we still have kind of basic family life boxes that we need to tick and check off to be able to go to these places. I think that you can find very interesting places to stay around here, but it's not going to be cheap. So just prepare your budget accordingly. You're definitely going to want a car or some kind of transportation for your family, no matter where you are. This is not a state where you can digital nomad, fly in, and just have good public transportation somewhere. It's not going to happen. That's just not going to work. So definitely, you know, better for van life, better for road tripping, better for like coming somewhere for a couple months with your car. Don't try to rent a car. It's like so much. I would say right now I'm seeing in the US at least about $1,000 a week for car rentals. And it goes up from there. And so if you're digital nomading for a couple months and you're coming to Washington State, just do not, like, it doesn't make sense. I mean, at this point, it's better to buy a used car sometimes if you're going to be somewhere for a few months. So those are kind of my lists of, and in no way is this a complete list of digital nomad things. These were just topics I was talking to some people on Instagram with, DMing back and forth after my last digital nomad video on, what do I think of Washington State? Is it a good spot to come be a digital nomad for a while? Does it have flexibility? I think if you love nature, it's beautiful here, and it's got a good climate for being outside as long as you don't mind being wet and damp. But it doesn't have the community, and it doesn't have the cost of living index that I think would persuade a lot of people to come want to be a digital nomad for 6 months out of the year. But I am testing out different states, and I am looking at different spots where you can go be a digital nomad with a visa. Don't go to other countries and be a digital nomad without getting your visa, because we don't want countries to be mad at us digital nomads for cheating their systems. So make sure where you're going is good. So that's part of why I'm looking in the US, because it's really hard as an American citizen to get visas for other places. A couple European countries are starting to do digital nomad visas. Some have them going, but it's really tricky and it becomes very complicated. So, digital nomading in your country, if you're an American citizen, can be a lot easier. There's such diversity. But just, try to stick straight and narrow, I try to say, because you don't want the digital nomad community to get a bad reputation for traveling and working when they aren't supposed to be. So, I put that little disclaimer there because I've seen some other people go just go cheat. And I'm like, no, we want to build the sense in countries that they want us to come, that they want to make the visa process easy, that they want digital nomads. We want other countries to be like, oh, this is a good idea. Okay, biscuits. I will see you over on Instagram. I will see you on my Patreon if you would like to do some fabulous self-care. If you are a digital nomad that is tired and says, oh, I need some self-care. I need some funny burlesque jokes. Where could I go? I could go to Rose's Patreon page. Is it right there? Boom. Oh, yeah. Okay, biscuits. I will see you in the next video.